I'm Ande Kindryd. I am thrilled to be guesting with the SyFy sisters, all the way from Australia. Guys, I'm so glad to be with you.
Everybody, welcome to the SyFy Sistas podcast, where we give you our point of view. I'm your host, Tamia Harper, and I'm joined by my sisters, Yvette Blackman-Tom.
Hello.
Fran T.
What's happening?
And Sabrina Wood.
Whoop, whoop.
And yeah, you know, we got a guest for you today. We have a truly special guest, a truly special spirit, who I feel like I've known just from the first couple of minutes talking to her. I feel like this woman has been in my life my whole life. And if she hasn't, I feel like she needs to be in my life forever. I'm adopting you. She is the author of From Slavery to Star Trek. I can say that. Memoir excerpts from Code Switching, A Family's Voyage from Slavery to the Stars. She is the one and only Ande Kindryd, and we are so excited to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yay. Thanks for the invite.
We say we're excited because y'all, first of all, y'all need to go pick up this book, okay? Because Ms. Kindryd tells it all, y'all. This woman was the executive assistant for Gene Kuntz of the original series of Star Trek for how many years?
I don't know, 2 or 3.
It seemed like, well, she got all the dirt in here, y'all. She got, cut.
No, that's not the one. That's not the one. The one now is called, the name keeps changing, right? And people were saying code switching. Oh, what is code? Is that something to do with computers? And I went, okay, never mind. I won't. So this one is just simply from slavery to the stars.
Okay.
Past Star Trek to the Southern Cross. The first time I'd ever seen the Milky Way at night. It was just the most magnificent, magical place. So, yeah, and it tells even more stuff because there were a few things I didn't mention in Slavery to Star Trek because I didn't know how delicate some of the Star Trek fans might be.
Well, I want to back up a little bit, Ande, and just explain to everybody the book that we all have, and we got it at the Las Vegas convention, where you came with your excerpts from the book. And in the excerpt book is called From Slavery to Star Trek, which I think sold out in a matter of minutes in Las Vegas. So if you weren't there, you can't get this book. But the SyFy sisters all got a copy because Ande was nice enough to autograph one for each of us. Yay!
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. I only made 250 copies of that.
And they were gone.
And there are not going to be any more of that one. There might be something like it. But Slavery to the Stars starts off with a love story between my dear grandmother's grandmother and her husband, how he swam across the Mississippi River and did all kinds of things to get to that woman. And then when he got there, instead of keeping going to where it was free territory, he said, I'd rather be a slave if I could be with you.
Now that's a long story.
I have to honor them. I have to honor their story.
So that was your grandmother's grandmother you're talking about, right? Yeah. You're going back. Okay.
And so Jim and Winnie. I love
that. No, we read this book. I'm telling you.
I love that part.
And I hope you like what's now Some Slavery to the Stars, because it's 107,000 words. So what you got came out of that book. And I'll make sure you guys get this one, because it's more about what it was like being a woman on Star Trek and the things that happened. You got all that Star Trek stuff there, but this then takes you out of Star Trek to Universal Studios, where there's me walking around the lot. And I think there were 2 more. somewhere, but I didn't know. And then it takes you to the BBS, which was the Easy Rider film company, and there's these very hip, cool people that I met with Jane Fonda and the peace movement there, and how what was like working with them, and it went on there. And then it was the first time with my first women in film meeting, and I was so excited to be with all these women. And they were doing stuff in film, and I said to my, oh, this is so great, and we were, yeah. And I said, and being Black, man, makes it even harder. And she said to me, no, it doesn't.
Who?
Black doesn't mean anything. It's just that you're a woman. And we got to the point where I felt my fist, and I knew that I had to get out of there before I smacked her.
Yeah.
So all of that, and I just ended up saying, oh well, screw it. And I got out of the. Gene Kuhn died. He was my rabbi, my mentor, sort of was gonna be, and then he died. So I got a chance to leave the country just for a few weeks, and it took me about 6 years to get back, because I got to Australia. I found the people here were fighting their battles for civil rights, and I'd worked with Martin and Malcolm and Maulana, and so I just fell into it. And so I stayed there with them, and then I ended up making a life here. So I've now lived in Australia as long as I lived in America.
Wow.
Well, that's one of the things that I think was so amazing about reading this book is your life. I mean, man, talk about the history, the people that you have known and have associated with and worked with. I mean, it's not like you were just a groupie. Like you're boots on the ground, working civil rights worker with Martin, with Malcolm, with Maulana. You have this incredible story. And I love the way that From Slavery to Star Trek is formulated. It's like a patchwork quilt, like it is these excerpts from, from your life.
Moments.
Yeah.
A lifetime is just a whole bunch of moments. And I gathered some of the moments. And some of my favorite moments were with Melvin Van Peebles.
Oh my God.
I adored Melvin. And Bill Russell. Bill let me drive his Lamborghini. The first time I met him, I said, can I drive your car? And he said, sure. And he tossed me the keys. And I went out there and jumped in the car, and my feet were that far from the pedals. I thought, oh, damn. Let me drive his car. But he didn't. He just gave me the key. He just wanted to frustrate me. This is a custom car. And I see, probably don't move. And I walk back inside. And see, I can't help it, because in my family, you get a bit angry. We do get pissed off. I said, you didn't have to do that. He said, what? I said, you didn't have to say I could drive your car. It's custom. I can't even reach the pedals. And he said, oh, come on. And he took me gently out to the car, adjusted the seat so I could drive it, and let me take off.
Oh, my
wow.
And he used to whip my butt at Scrabble every time we played. I mean, I don't know why people, I said to my friend Gwen Green, who's just one of the most wonderful women who ever was, she was the one behind the scenes of March on Washington. The person in the office that was organized and stuff, that was Gwen. Southern voter registration drive, that was Gwen in the office, in the background, always doing it. And so I said, Gwen, why didn't Martin want me around? And I said, because I was nobody. And she said, you ask good questions. And that was it. So I can look at so many people that have been in my life, and I'm just so grateful. Octavia, oh Lord. I've read Kindryd, fell in love with it, and had to find her, wanted to make that book, and ended up not doing that, but having a friend.
Oh.
And that was more important. We got to be friends.
I saw the picture you have of you and her having dinner, and I think I almost fell down when you showed me that picture. So
I don't remember that. Do I have a picture?
Yeah, it's in the book, I think. You showed it to me.
That's probably Martin at dinner.
Yes. Listen, the book has pictures of so many people. Well, I want to get back. I want to get back because you're throwing all these names out. You're making me dizzy. I can't even control myself with all these names that you're giving me, and I'm having a heart attack. but I want people to understand exactly who you're talking about. So first of all, I'm going to take you back to Los Angeles Community College, right?
Maulana.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
So, like Fran over here is sitting here like, yeah, I know who this is, but a lot of people don't know who we're talking about. And so why don't you just explain who your friend at Los Angeles Community College was and who he became, please. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. His name was Ron when I met him, and we won't saw him anymore. We won't dead name him, okay? We'll leave that out. Okay. But Maulana, I heard him speak, and it was like the world opened up, and I learned in the library there was a section that had books about Black people and history. We weren't looking at that. I was running around with my hair blonde and straight.
Okay. Okay.
That was it. My mom was a hairdresser. I'd done the link singing with the cotillion and all that. Oh yeah, I did it all. And so I met him, and for the first time, I mean, I was born colored, and then I was a Negro, and then I got a capital N Negro. And with Maulana, he was talking about beautiful Black sisters. And I'm not Black. Why are you calling me Black?
Ready to fight.
So many of us said
them
that.
fighting words.
Right? Just now laugh. Butts, lips, and color. And now, folks just keep copying. Anyhow, I've seen them. Maulana was running for student body president, so I voted for him, and we got closer and closer and very close. Very close. And I've got some books. I think I've got a Souls of Black Folks with a dedication.
All right, I'm sorry.
First of all, he introduced me to Malcolm. We went.
Oh, he introduced you. Okay.
Yeah, we went, and science fiction.
Yes.
He introduced me to both science fiction and Malcolm. So we met Malcolm, and then we invited him to come to City College and speak. And it was the first time he'd been officially on a campus in California. He'd been off campus, but he'd never been on campus. And we got him on for the first time. So our friendship started from that. And then oh Lord, I have Maulana stories that don't even get to the book. Anyhow, he ended up doing a few doctorates and creating a holiday called Kwanzaa.
Boom.
There it is. The man who created Kwanzaa.
Okay, that's guy number one.
So I remember my kids were very little, and he'd come and read them stories about, tell them stories about Anansi the spider, storyteller. And I remember my daughter said to her pediatrician, who was a very fair-skinned man, Dr. Blevins, you're a Black doctor, and you know Black is beautiful. And he's like, oh yes, Paula, you're right. Thank you, Paula. And she was so proud. I mean, we felt so proud because he said to me, Andy, I don't know why you go out working to make money, to buy presents for your kids, and then tell them some big fat man, white man in a red suit bought them.
That was not allowed in my house at all.
So, yeah, that was my Maulana introductions, and he was very important in my life, and still is. And I'm glad we're still friends after all these years.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, that's amazing. So, I wanted to go back a little bit to the debate because we just did a panel dedicated to Martin Luther King and Nichelle Nichols, and we talked about the West Coast trip that you were the personal assistant for Martin Luther King on. And the man that Malcolm was debating that night was Ed Warren, who was same man that we mentioned was doing the lobbying against the studios to get more Blacks in. We just mentioned this man, and now I'm reading that this is the guy that you had come onto the campus. I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy.
It was great because he was lobbying, and the publicity was good for him, so he was happy to come on.
President of the NAACP in LA, right?
NAACP, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, we talked about Wah Chang on Star Trek, the prop maker.
Right.
Now, Wah couldn't join the union. They weren't letting anybody in, and they made it real clear that they would not allow Star Trek to hire any non-union workers. So they didn't. But Wah would drop by and sit down with Bobby Justman, and they'd chat about things that were happening. And then he'd come back sometime later, and he would just happen to have with him a prop or whatever it was needed for that show. But he never was hired by them to make anything. He just sold them things.
Right.
I mean, Michelle, Charlie Washburn, Stan Roberts, and Stan was, I did love Stan. He was old school, but he pushed it. He did everything he could to make sure he got to where he went. He gave up. He'd already gotten a degree and worked at Johnson Publications, and he went back to USC to study film.
Okay.
So that he could make that transition. And then he started off as an usher and worked his way up.
Yeah, he became one of the first black vice presidents there, right?
And he was the first black president at NBC and also Columbia Pictures.
Columbia Pictures.
Wow.
Wow.
I think it's tasty, but that's okay.
So you're hanging with Malcolm, in LA after you met him, and tell us a little bit more about that, because I was just like the car battery story. Tell me that.
Well, I was the last one. We dropped Karinga off because Karinga lived in Leimert Park, which was close to the Shabazz restaurant where we would gather after in the evening. And so we dropped him off, and I don't know if there was anybody else, but then he dropped me off last because I lived further, and we just sit and talk. But our conversations weren't just the same as Karinga, because I was being deferential in those days. You know, our men have suffered so much. It's us to step behind and be behind him, supporting him. We're not supposed to be out in front. Which, what's her name? That was with Martin and Ella Baker. Ella Baker. You don't hear that name, but she was strong, and she was there with them, and she told them, we don't need more leaders. We need people who are empowered. Anyhow, so women, we had that role of looking after and studying. I mean, because how could you have Elridge Cleaver announcing he's a rapist and still is deified? You know, anyhow. That was then. This is now. Okay. So those are the people I hung out with. And then when I moved to New York, because I wanted to be close, I started having an affair with Wyatt. And when you have an affair with a married minister, that is not going to work well. It is not going to come out.
Nope. See, y'all, this is why I want y'all to pick up this woman's books, because she's got no cut cards. And, you know, it's a very honest telling of her life. And that's what I admire so much about you. It takes guts to be honest, you know, and you were very honest. You were very honest about your vulnerabilities. You're very honest about, you know, the times when the moments of ignorance. You're very honest about what it took for you to grow, you know, and I think that's really inspiring. I mean, I've taken that away from your books. It's like, because my past is how I got to where I am here. I shouldn't have any shame about it, but you know, we're human beings and we make honest mistakes, but we also learn and we adapt and we grow. And that's what's so beautiful about reading your book. It's like you see the unfolding of this, you know, really beautiful woman. It's incredible.
My requirement for that book was that I tell my truth, that I tell it as honestly and as best as I could. And I still have the bipolar, and I still go into tears real easy because my prescription hasn't been filled yet lately because of anyhow. But I wanted to tell the truth, and I wanted to say, this is me, and I've been hiding and shamed about this stuff for so long. And why is that? Why can't we express our sexuality honestly, openly, and without fear? What? Anyhow,
without shame.
Okay, that was one of my
without shame. Why can't
that was one of my favorite sentences in the book. I highlighted sentences that just hit me when I was reading it, and either sometimes they hit me because they were so powerful, sometimes because they were so funny, sometimes because they were both. And one of the ones that I highlighted was when you said, I enjoyed the search for good sex. There wasn't nearly as much around as you would think out there.
Right? I love that.
I was like,
that.
she's absolutely correct. Nothing has changed.
We thought the 60s had it going on, but nope.
Well, you know,
The 70s kind of did, but the 60s, I don't know. I wasn't having sex.
Women still got done because they had Margaret Mead, who claimed that the South Sea Islander women, the Polynesian women, had free love and free sex. That was bull. They didn't, but they were just having her on. And that meant that when she wrote it seriously in her book, all these white guys especially were reading that and they were saying, come on, we should have free sex, free love, because it was all to their advantage.
Right.
And so, you know, but when I was in high school, when I was really interested in sex, it was something that you just couldn't do it. And I wrote a little piece, I called it, I was a slut when being a slut meant something.
Mm. Mm.
Okay.
So tell us how you got to Dusty Lou. I love that story too. I'm going to keep us on track here.
The slut talk myself. I'm digging the slut talk myself. I like it.
One time, Melvin, after we got out of bed, put me in front of the mirror and he said, look at yourself. Do you see how beautiful you are? And I was like, I still wasn't caring about myself, loving myself. It took a lot of years for me to get there. It took a lot of years. But
one of the things that I
remember him trying to tell me, you are wonderful and beautiful as you are. Understand that. But I was also dating Max Julian, the Mac.
Yes.
That was his big. And Max was a dog. And he was dogging me, and Melvin was trying to lift me up. You know, it was.
I love how you were constantly asking in the book, like, and who taught me that?
Right.
You know, and who taught us that? You know, and who taught me that? Who taught us that? You know, is reflection of, you know, when you were struggling to come to grips with, like, let me wear my natural hair as opposed to, you know, who taught me that my natural hair wasn't beautiful and good enough? You know, I love that question. Who taught me that?
It came from Malcolm. The first time I saw him speak, I think, was when he come out after the police had killed the brothers at the mosque, at the temple, because it was a temple then. And his talk was, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate your lips? And I remember having this guy that I was crazy about, but he was very big and he had pink lips there. And my cousin's husband used to make fun of him and make fun of me for being with him. And I remember breaking up with him because I couldn't take that anymore.
Oh, wow.
His lips were too big and big. We got together 40 years later, but you know, by that time, it was a little late. Anyhow, who taught me that? Who taught me that gay men should walk or dress or something a certain way? Who taught me that people who weigh X on a scale, or even Bill Shatner? Did you like the part about Bill and my daughter?
Your daughter.
Yes.
I love that part. That was so hilarious. I love it.
She came running into my office and she was just hysterical. And she was the one that told me to put the lipstick on. And I was so, what is it? What's going on? I'm ready to go to war.
Yes.
And she had seen him without his hairpiece. And I thought that was a big joke. Who taught me that people's boldness, now that I'm, after 40 years of dreadlocks, I'm everything at the top there. Who taught me that bald was bad? You know?
Well, come around, but now bald is cool.
Yeah.
One day. So, okay, so What else? What else? I have to beg for plays. What else did you like about my book?
Girl, everything. Once you start reading it, it's so hard to put down. And, it touches so many points. And it's a quick read. And I could hear your voice, without even knowing you. It's such a lively voice that it is in the book that I was enchanted, and just wanted to read more and know more about what was going on. And, personally, I'm a big fan of these, looking at yourself and knowing that these are moments that, were painful, but I learned from them, and you just do it so eloquently, I love how you're talking about code switching, because you really were navigating these different worlds and learning to, and for those of you all who might be listening who don't know what code switching is when, like, Black folks, we have a way that we talk to each other when we're around each other. But when you get into a white setting with people, we talk a little bit more proper and a little bit more white. We have different languages that we speak amongst ourselves in different communities. And that's code switching, when you have to go to what is supposed to be the predominant language and the predominant culture says you need to talk and behave a certain way when you're interacting in this culture. And so you automatically do it. But, that's code switching. So I love that you are exploring that and you talk about it, because it's so much a part of every Black person's experience in this country.
You do not talk to your boss the way you talk to your parents, you talk to your friends, you talk to your, whatever. We switch to fit in. And I think one of the most embarrassing ones was when I code switched, but I went the wrong direction. And that was with George Plimpton. Because, I read the Paris Review. It was on my reading list back then, and when he fought Archie Moore a few rounds to write for Sports Illustrated. Archie taught me how to punch. He was the one that showed me how to make sure that eeny meeny didn't get past miny mo. I'd already put my fist in their face, which of course is a limited tactic, because when you don't know who yelled nigger, you just see all those white faces. I think that was one of it did a lot, because after that I started having skin conditions, rashes breaking out, and eating everything I could, shoplifting so I could eat candy every day. And getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because I was shoving all that down, because as the only, or one of two, finally, after another kid came to the school, the only two Black kids in that all-white school, I had to do something.
Can I imagine that?
So your father was friends with Archie Moore and had him come over to teach you how to fight. Yeah. I think every Black girl's had their daddy or some male in their family teach them how to fight.
My brother,
my father.
Yeah.
Because they knew you were going to go up against it.
Yeah,
they couldn't protect you. They had to send you to school, and they could not be there. So you had to fight, and they wanted to make sure you were going to get your butt kicked.
But my mom didn't notice that, because Mom was a proper lady who did everything to fit in. And when they said to her, "Oh, you sure are pretty for a dark girl," she took that as a compliment.
Well, that's the time.
Those were the times.
Those were the times. And so she just wanted me to be socially acceptable and reverent. Because in her beauty salon, I heard about this mythical rich white lady. And they worked for this rich white lady. This rich white lady gave them those clothes. That rich white lady did this, and that rich white lady, till I thought this was this mythical person who above everything. And when I think it was still in my head when I met those women from Women in Film. I thought, now that the rich white ladies are in here, we're going to movement going with women in Hollywood, in the industry. But yeah.
Sound like my grandmama, and the rich white lady. Yeah. Oh God.
You heard that one too, huh?
Oh, my grandmother. Yes, my grandmother, her friends. Yes, I heard it, and I too thought it was somebody that was like unreachable and just bestowed everything. Oh, and you get a, like Oprah does. Okay, you get a dress, you get a girdle. You get this and you get that, and so yeah, I remember those days. I was a little girl, but I remember.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was little, my father's family used to work for the Crane Estate in Massachusetts. So that they were a big white family, rich white lady. And when my mother had my brother Michael, they gave her a big English pram, so she had this big carriage. It's like, what the hell is she going to do with this totally out of place British thing? Totally over the top. But and I remember, my aunt worked there, my uncle, my father, they all worked at the Crane Estate in the, the waiters, they were maids and washed the cars, all that. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time I got invited to a wedding at a fancy estate, and it was the Crane Estate. So I went to the wedding, and I had to tell my father, I said, Dad, I'm going to this wedding, and I'm going to the Crane Estate. And he just looked at me. He just went, well, that's different.
I can remember my dad working for rich white ladies, and he got X amount of dollars an hour and toting privileges.
Yeah. Toting.
Okay, you're going to have to explain
that one to the youngins.
I don't know that one.
I don't know what that is.
They
carry away the leftovers. You could tote.
You can toast the whole.
Yeah. Tote that stuff on out of here.
That was a letdown.
Okay, now that I know.
Come on, man.
Oh man, I thought it was something else.
No.
I'm totally let down by that one.
Oh yeah, your aunt, somebody cooking for something, you bring home all the stuff.
Bring it home, white people food? Never mind, I'm sorry.
No, we cooked it though.
Oh yeah, okay.
We
That's
cooked
true.
it.
We cooked it.
Thank you.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true.
She saved the best part. But oh my God, that took me back. Oh Jesus. Okay, so you're at. I'm going back. I'm bringing this back.
I want to move up to the Star Trek part because I really want to get to Octavia Butler. So come on, Sabrina.
Bring us to Desilu, and now you get hired after the watch riot.
Yeah, they hired two of us. Like you do in two, you get a male and a female.
Mm-hmm.
So they hired two of us, and.
It's so true.
Not the art, so
it's still true.
And so I was the floater secretary. So I would work any place on the lot where they needed clerical assistance. So I went to Star Trek a few times. And then when Gene Kuhn came in, more often with Gene, and by then I was wearing my mini skirts. And like Nichelle wrote in her book, I did have legs Tina Turner would envy.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right
go
now.
ahead.
That's right.
I love when Nichelle wrote that. Thank you, Nichelle.
Because she that's for true.
Yeah.
It's
so
for true.
Gene liked my legs, so he hired me. And I thought about, okay, do I really want to work for this guy called Kuhn?
Right.
Somebody's going to call me Kuhn's Kuhn. I know what's going to happen. And it did, and it was Ivan Dixon. He broke my heart.
Out loud.
Out loud. He said, you ain't nothing but Kuhn's Kuhn. And he said it, and it was almost as though venom was coming out, covering each of the words as he spoke.
To a lot of people listening.
Yeah.
I keep
damn, brother.
I don't know. I keep forgetting that this is going out to other people and it's not just us sitting in a room.
I know.
We have conversations.
This is what happens when you hang out with the sisters.
That's right.
You've been name dropping and
I have to remember to be careful with some of the things I might say.
Well,
I like your candidness.
The thing is, not lying on nobody, so fuck it.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
Thank
right.
you. And it's your truth.
I like to read autobiographies, and I read this book, Who by this singer who shall remain nameless. This person dropped names except when it mattered, when you really wanted to know who this person was talking about. And I'm like, this is crap here. This is why did I read this book? And because it didn't tell me nothing that I didn't already know.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for being candid about your life and saying and calling out and just being honest and upfront about it. It's refreshing.
It is. And especially when it comes to those of us who are Star Trek fans and have been Trek fans for so long, there's a mythology around the creators of the show, regardless of we know the times in which, especially the original series was created. We know that what we got was really good for that time. I mean, there was some good stuff in there, as well as the faults. But I don't. It's nothing that we can sweep under the rug either. It's not. I don't excuse people's actions. They just. But I don't look upon people with the same level of awe, and reverence and adulation sometimes as some other people do. I think it's really easy to put people on pedestals, and I don't think it serves any purpose, because when they hear the truth and that people are just people and they shit just like you, it can be heartbreaking for people, and you have to remember, we all have to remember that, all these people, SyFy Sistas, we've been really fortunate lately. And, we just wanted to start talking about Star Trek and other science fiction and fantasy from a Black woman's perspective, because we all love it. And what it's led to is some really great opportunities for us to meet people and start exploring on a different level. And, we meet these creators and people like, oh my gosh, did you do it? I'm like, no, we talk to these people as human beings because that's all they are. They just happen to have a different job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I called Martin because Gwen called him Martin. I'm like, no, if I wanted to be formal, I'd say Dr. King, but mostly it was Martin. And he could tell stories that make you laugh and blush.
Uh-oh.
It's another book. That's another book. That's the one that's coming out.
You need to get on that
that's
book.
The one that's coming out. We got the cover back the other day, and it's gonna. Okay, there's my camera. Let's see if you can see it.
Oh, that's a great picture.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful picture.
Oh, I love that.
She's showing us this gorgeous picture. It's black and white. I wish you could see it.
That's going to be the cover. And then on the back, I have to, where is it? Oh, I know where it is. It's up there on the, it's up there on the top of my screen. If I can pull that down a little bit. Oh, well. I'll find it while I'm doing it, because I want to see the back page is fun. I really enjoyed writing the stuff on that one, and it's right here. No, that's the picture. Okay, keep talking, guys.
I really want to ask, because I know that our time is going to be running short. And are you in tomorrow already? In Australia is tomorrow. For us, it's like it's 10 something at night, but it's tomorrow morning there, isn't it?
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Yeah.
Afternoon.
Yeah, we started at 1:30, and it's after 2 now.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I really would like to ask you about your friendship with Octavia Butler, because I think for a lot of us who are such big fans of her work and what she meant to us, I mean, she meant the world to me. And when you talk about personal heroes or personal goddesses, she's very much one for me, because I admit, when I'd been reading science fiction and fantasy my whole life and had never, until I was 19 years old or 20 years old, and I first saw one of her book covers, I'd never seen anybody on the cover that looked like me, never. And and when I remember the day that I first found, I think it was Imago that I first read. I remember, or Wild Seed, it might have been Wild Seed, but I remember the book cover was a young brown woman who literally looked so much like me. Like they took a picture of me and I almost fainted in that bookstore. And I just looked, I brought home as much of her books as was on the shelf. I brought them all home. I didn't even read them in order. I just devoured them. I just devoured her words. It just had the biggest impact. So, but she's somebody that we don't get to know a lot about. We know her words, but a lot of people, she had a tight inner circle and she wasn't a super public person. And when she was alive, she wasn't getting right. She wasn't getting the level of press and stuff that she does now. So it's really valuable and wonderful and a gift to me to talk to somebody who actually knew her.
Well, that's why I pulled this out. Okay, this January 9th, 1992. How's this for speed? I promised to send you a book and just a few months later, here it is. Hey, faster than a speeding snail. Okay, she says, okay. She said, her sense of humor. What else is happening? Well, Governor Wilson says he wants to lower welfare payments, but wants to help children. I suppose it would help them to be kicked out of their horrible apartments in their horrible neighborhoods and have to live on the streets. Builds character, right? This one over here. I'm just trying to find the important things. Let's see. Okay. Seattle has worked out fine. This is December 11th, 2001. As well as you can see, I have begun to do email because that was one of our problems. She wouldn't email. And I didn't get around to writing too often. So this had taken a while. He said, to tell the truth, I don't like emails. I think because it's easier for me to forget to answer snail mail. She wasn't. I always meant to answer it, but of course I put it down and it gets covered with other mail, books, tapes, CDs, and heaven knows what else, and I forget. Your letter, by the way, was under a notebook and a pile of Post-it notes of different sizes. I think it must mean something good that I remembered I put it there. I'm glad you're writing. Wait a minute. She went to England then. Oh, she loved Alaska. She loved the open space. I fell in love with Denali or whatever. I was eaten alive by mosquitoes, but the place was so beautiful, so big and empty. If only I could have had a few dark, starry nights, it would have been perfect. I don't get to see stars that often. I need to somehow. But it was July and the night never got dark enough for real stargazing. No northern lights either, of course. I've never seen them except in pictures. I will get back to Alaska. I loved it too much to stay away. Okay, she said, but if I could just get this latest novel finished, instead of writing bits of them and throwing them out, then writing some more bits and tossing them. I think when I'm blocked, I waste more paper with the computer than I did with the typewriter. I keep printing things out and dumping them. Anyway, when I get this novel finished, I'll either go back to Alaska, the Andes, or down to Antarctica. New Zealand is on my list too because of its ancient geology. Who knows, someday I might actually get to see you on or near your turf. And then she goes, work. Okay, what's over this one? Oh, this one I think is fun. I hope she sent me a book. And she said, I hope you've received the copy of And Then We Heard the Thunder. You guys read that one?
I read that one, no.
And then we read it. And then we heard the thunder. But I said, I wouldn't be surprised to discover that you hadn't received it, of course. I'll be interested to see how much faster this letter travels. I'd also like to be interested in hearing what you thought of Clay's arc. If you're not careful, you could become one of the few people on Earth who are worse, slower correspondents than I am. You wouldn't want that to happen. To switch back to the heat and sweat and lethargy and discomfort, I have a feeling summer's had a little help depressing me. My agent tells me she's got another rejection of blind sight. She gently, delicately advises me to flush it down the nearest toilet. She sent me a copy of the rejection letter. The editor praises the writing, but complains that he doesn't know what sort of a novel it is. In other words, he can't categorize it. Isn't that funny? I'm not having any trouble categorizing him. This is the kind of shit I got on Kindryd over and over. Well, I suppose if editors had imaginations, they wouldn't be editors. That's the most bigoted thing I've said all day.
Oh, slap!
The shade.
I did a Black Writers
in her own hand. Keep going with the letter.
Okay. I did a Black Writers Workshop last Sunday. Every now and again, this is 1984, by the way.
Yeah.
Every now and again, it's nice to come out of my shell, stand in front of a group of people and pretend to know a lot. Good for the ego. Hey, write me something in Australian. Sweatily, Octavia.
Sweatily.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Wordsmith.
Well, this is before one of those. I've done it, moved to Seattle. It's wet and cool, and I still have tons of unpacking to do. I've barely begun to learn my way around, but I do love it here. But I do have a great view of the distance. I can see the Cascades whenever I go to the store. It's great. You'll see when you visit. And just
you can't save emails though, so you have those letters.
I know, and that's what's so fun. What's this one? I have this stuck there. Oh, hi there. We all have our weaknesses. You like emails? I like holiday cards. Peace on Earth. You can see the card. It says peace on Earth.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
As soon as possible. Best wishes for the holidays and all around joy. I'm writing a vampire novel and having more fun than I've had in years. That was fledgling.
Oh, wow.
And after
That was fledgling, yeah.
Yeah, after she started working on that, she did this. She sends me another card. And of course, good health, prosperity, and fun. Speaking of fun, I finished my vampire novel. It's due to be published in early 2006. Okay.
Wow.
So I just wanted to share you some of these. What's this one? Oh, dear Andy, this is 96. I'm writing because I can't remember whether I've given you my new address. I moved to Altadena and gotten a new P.O. box, still in Pasadena. I finally bought that house I've been threatening to buy for years. If this is old news, I apologize. I decided that maybe repeating myself was better than just vanishing on you. How in the world are you? When are you visiting? So I fell in love with Kindryd. There was an article that Charlie Jane wrote for a magazine, and I just got it when Kindryd came out. The film came out, and she tells the story of how I found the book, fell in love with it, said I gotta make this movie. I gotta make this film. I mean, I was hopeful. I'd gone off to AFI, done, I fellow there, and that hadn't worked out because I didn't realize they were so right wing there. But I had fun. I had fun when I left. They believed in the auteur theory of the artist, the director is artist of the film. And I remember as I left, I slammed down a stack of paper, unmarked paper, and said, "Shoot that," and walked out. I loved that moment. I enjoyed that. Yeah, shoot that, mother. Anyhow, I tried to reach her through her agent. I wanted to meet this woman and find out if somebody had was going to make it into a film, if anybody had optioned it. Because I wanted to put an option on the book to make it into a film. So I wanted to do that. So, but the publishers wouldn't give me any information. And so I was with Reese and Doris Halsey. Doris Halsey was an agent. She was agent for some of the biggest literary figures in America. Anyhow, but she'd been in World War II and a spy and all. She was a wonderful, wild woman. And she said to me, "Well, Andy, if you can't find her, she lives in LA. Why don't you look in the yellow in the phone book?" And I went, "Okay." So I opened the phone book. Octavia E. Butler, 3 blocks from me.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So I called her and invited her to lunch, and she came. She thought I was hitting on her. We sorted that out soon. But I was trying to impress her. My friend Rosalind Heller was one of the heads of Columbia Pictures at that time, and she had this great house, and I was house sitting for her. So I took Octavia up to the house, hoping to impress her that I knew people of a stature in Hollywood, and it was optioned already. But we got to.
But you got to be friends. And for those of you who don't know, there used to be these real big, thick books that had your name and your phone number and your address in them.
And your address.
And your address in alphabetical order.
And they would give it out for free.
For free. You
and
could get
everybody
as many as
could
you
look in it and find out wherever you wanted to know who lived where.
Well, one day I hope we get together and just talk when it's not recorded.
Yes, ma'am.
Version of the show.
We could talk to you ad nauseum. Your stories are so wonderful. Your perspective on your experiences is beautiful, and I love it. It's not just the fact of like there's a name here and a name there. It's how you experience these moments with these people, and and I think that the richness of your life is just so inspiring, and I think that you are a perfect example of what it means to be really free. And if we could have more Black folks like you in our lives, I say bring it on. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Andy, when is your I'm sorry to cut you off. When is your book, the new book, coming out, and what is the name of it?
The name of is From Slavery to the Stars.
Okay.
And it's the whole thing, because I think Slavery to Star Trek was about 50,000 words probably or so. And this is 107,000. So I go into things more, not only do I, do my great-great-grands in Shankleville, Texas, but then I go with the move to Watts after Aunt Regina had to get the shotgun out when the Klan came calling. We all moved to they moved to California, and so it's the early days in California. My grandfather helping to establish the first Democratic Party office in there, and I do add more facts and figures, because my feeling is I want people to enjoy the book. I want them to have a laugh now and again, and I also want them to learn something.
Right.
So, and like Octavia used to get so pissed off because what she had in the future kept happening. And she said,
oh my God.
Yeah. And I started to feel a little bit that way with the Gavin Newsom in California giving the land back to the beachfront land
beach
back.
People, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, but they're in the book, and I thought, oh shit, now he's telling everybody. I was going to tell him. Now he's talking. You didn't hear all the story there, and I talk about the inkwell. That's what they called it, because too many Black people were living there, so they started calling it the inkwell. And Black people, they had a resort there for Black people.
You mean at Martha's Vineyard? You talking about Martha's Vineyard now, or is there one on the West Coast too?
This is West Coast.
Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've got one in Martha's Vineyard over here too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the inkwell. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Jill Nelson's family used to vacation there.
Yeah, my friend Onita Estes Hicks, you saw her in the news a few years ago because her family from Georgetown University sold some of her family to get the money for the university, and she was having reconciling her Catholicism with slavery. She told me a bit about it. But they also had a beach club at Redondo Beach, which burnt down the night before it was to open. So the Klan came in, and that's what happened. The Klan came in. They weren't the only family who lost their property. There were several families that lost their property. Mm-hmm. And so I talk about 90% of LA was under covenants that prohibited Black people from living there and redlining. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know what happened in New York. You couldn't get a loan in Harlem to improve your property or to buy property till Bill Clinton moved in. Mm-hmm. And my friend Sam Waterston, the Law and Order guy, Sam was telling me about he bought a brownstone for his son, and now his son's a landlord. And I thought, yeah, thanks.
Mm-mm. Well, y'all, I think that this has been a truly beautiful hour. I thank you so very, very, very much for spending time with us. I mean, it's just been a pleasure.
My pleasure. And may I ask you, if anybody knows any publishers or agents, please let me know, because I'm 84 in 2 weeks and I'm tired. And doing all the things to do, it's finished.
Can't be waiting on these people. Oh my God.
Look at it. There's the manuscript.
All right. Congratulations.
It's done.
That's awesome.
And you saw the cover.
Y'all hear that, Trek Nation? Trek Nation, y'all come together on this one.
Come on.
So if you guys can offer me any advice as to where to go and how, I would be so grateful, because I'm weary.
I got some people to talk to then.
Yep.
And you can be weary. You're 84 years old and you're a Black woman that was raised in America.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
too. So folks,
Thank you.
if you've been listening and you have thoughts that have been popcorning in your head around from this amazing conversation and you want to share them with us, Yvette, can you tell folks how they can share?
I sure can. You can find us at SyFysistas.com. That's SyFysistas.com. Join us on the mothership. That's MUTHASHIP. And the SyFy Sisters Book Club, both on Facebook. Download the Trek Geeks Network app, where you can find us and our family of podcasts on the Trek Geeks Network. On Instagram and TikTok, SyFy.Sisters. We are also on the Twitter at SyFy Sisters. Become a patron of SyFy Sisters today at patreon.com/SyFy Sisters. After listening to this podcast, please rate us and write a review. We may just read it on an upcoming episode.
And of course, we can't leave without shouting out the baddest engineer in all the universes. That's Dose the Anonymous One, who's responsible for all the music you hear on our show and the engineering. And if you need audio production skills or video production skills, look him up on Instagram. He's Dose_the_Anonymous_1. We love you, Dose. And we love you all for listening. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and hair grease, y'all.